Joining us now is the International Trade Secretary, Anne-Marie Trevelyan. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us on the programme. I wonder if I could get your reaction to that to start with, please. Hillary Clinton has said, if true, it's an utter disgrace. What do you think?
Well, as ever with leaked documents, you never quite know, so let's wait and see. But I'm certainly a woman who believes in choice for women. And when the Roe versus Wade ruling came through decades ago now, it's sort of before your and my time, you know, it's sort of part of our history, that that acceptance that actually women should have control of their bodies was something that set a standard for the rest of the world and allowed women to be empowered in this very, very critical way. So we'll wait and see. Clearly, it's whether this is a true document or not, but I think there will be a great deal of anxiety if that seems to be true. And I suppose if it goes to back to a state-by-state level, the US will have to deal with that in a different way, but we'll have to wait and see, of course.
What support or pressure could or should the British government try to put on the US government?
So these sorts of laws are, you know, national decisions, and governments, you know, need to take decisions. They have elected representatives through which they share their views, and in America, like in many democratic countries, the voice of the people is often heard, and their campaigning is usually, you know, taken through. So I imagine if this were to come to be a change in a very long-standing law, that there would be very strong campaigning from citizens from across the US.
Now, I know that you've been talking trade, haven't you, with in your role as International Trade Secretary with the US just last week. Would that potentially be an opportunity in future for us to express a UK view on this sort of thing?
So we don't use our trade tools, which are about, you know, buying and selling goods and services and working together to improve the routes of trade, things like through digital trade. We don't bring in, but the FCDO, our Foreign Office, speaks on all matters what you might call diplomatic, I think, which is what you refer to, and those continue all the time, regardless of our trading relationship. Our trade relationship with the US is incredibly strong and long-standing, and that will continue to be so. But on all matters, when there are matters of concern, then the Foreign Office would be the department that would pick up and
but you would
raise
expect
those
it to
issues.
be reasonable that they would potentially mention it in diplomatic channels?
Not being in the Foreign Office, I don't know, but I think issues of concern are always raised through diplomatic channels, whatever they might be. They're done privately often, because that can be a most effective way of, you know, setting out the view.
But this is a matter of concern, is what I'm trying to establish.
Well, I think it's a matter of great concern. I think to all women in the US, if this is a rowing back on a, you know, 50-year state of things, but we'll have to wait and see whether it's true or not, won't we?
OK. We've done a deal, not a trade deal, but we've done a deal with Rwanda, as we know. We saw the Home Secretary over there just a couple of weeks ago. The ruling to send migrants who come across the Channel to Rwanda became law last Thursday. When are we going to send our first migrants to Rwanda? So,
as you say, the law has now been brought in as an act at the end of the parliamentary session. So the Rwanda policy will now start to be brought into place. I don't have a precise date for you, okay, so I can't tell you that, but I know that the Home Secretary and the team are working very closely to set this in place. One of the things about it was to be able to look back since the beginning of the year. So those who are being fooled and put their lives at risk because of the people smugglers who are bringing them across in those small boats.
Doesn't seem to have deterred people, is the point I'm trying to make. 550 migrants came across the Channel. Can any of those that came over the weekend expect to find themselves in Rwanda?
So I can't answer that question, Kay, because I don't know who they are. But the point of the policy is to make sure that we try and really discourage this activity, because it puts people's lives. It's the busiest stretch of water, the Channel, an incredibly dangerous place to be. And we want to make sure that there are many, many legal migration applications.
But you acknowledge you acknowledge that it's not been a deterrent yet, has it?
Well, it's only literally just coming into place. So, like all things, it takes a little while to actually get all the processes.
Which is why I was asking when.
So, and I don't have an answer for you in terms of precise dates, but the policy has been set out, and the Home Office are working at pace to bring that into action, because we do not want people to put their lives at risk being conned by people smugglers to take take themselves to the sea.
So we'll find out in the fullness of time. Big day after tomorrow, local elections. What would you view as a success?
So it's a funny set of elections because it's not across the country. It's not all councils. I was supporting some young candidates yesterday where some of them are up for election and many of them aren't, because that's how our election system works. So I think there are some places where there's some close fights, but I think also in many places, certainly on doors I've been knocking on, there's been a continuing support that at a local level, because of course these are all local elections, they're at your council, people who have got Conservative councils know that they've got, great local services, 4 times as many potholes filled in Conservative councils as Labour ones.
I'm not talking about potholes. What I'm talking to you about is what would you view as a success?
So I think, as ever with local councils, elections will win some, will lose some. That's the nature of the beast anyway. But also that, 12 years of Conservative government, there are some
550 seats.
So I'm not close to the precise detail, but I would expect us to win some and lose some. That would be normal expected. But what I think we will see is a really strong showing by Conservative voters who want to come out and demonstrate that they know that locally run councils run by Conservatives are better.
Sure. And no matter how poorly, let's say, the Conservative Party does, the Prime Minister will remain in post. You won't see this as a referendum on the Prime Minister.
No.
Why not?
Because, as I say, local council elections in these strange quizzes are not they're not a broad reflection of the whole. You don't get a picture of the view.
They're a protest vote, a bit like by-elections.
Well, sometimes you get that, but as I say, you wouldn't be able to see that in the whole because they aren't all-out elections in most places. But, as I say, 12 years into government, you do get, as you describe it, sometimes a protest vote. And, that's the beauty of democracy. That's one of the reasons we're supporting Ukraine as they fight to maintain their democratic right to be a free nation.
Yeah, and is that something that the party is preparing for, potential protest vote against the Prime Minister?
No, not at the moment. The Prime Minister is getting on with the job of delivering a whole series of policies to make our country, move forwards in many ways, from, more hospitals and more schools, supporting our police and NHS by bringing in more amazing young people wanting to join those organisations, and continuing to get on with the job of running the country and defending, defending democracy and freedom in a way that in Europe we haven't seen for decades, by supporting the extraordinary Ukrainian leadership of President Zelensky and his amazing people who are standing up
local politics.
To Russian events.
Yeah, we're talking about domestic politics, if I may. Let me ask you about Keir Starmer and Beer with Keir, that seems to be getting a pace. 4 of your colleagues, I think I'm right in saying 4 of your colleagues in some form, Oliver Dowd and Nadine Dorries, Grant Shapps, and also the Defence Secretary, all calling for a further police investigation into what happened in Durham. Is that something that you would lend your support to this morning? So
across the piece, if there were concerns raised by, local people on the questions of lockdown rules, then I would hope the local police had investigated. Richard Holden, one of the Durham MPs, raised this because he felt that Durham Constabulary hadn't investigated it. I understand that there is some work ongoing, and I would absolutely encourage them to look at it, because that's the point. We did an extraordinary thing through COVID in terms of the whole of our population genuinely trying to do their bit and do their best.
But Mr Trevelyan,
and I think all
constabularies should further investigate.
Well, as I say, I think Durham Constabulary should look at the situation again and look at it properly in the same way the Metropolitan Police have chosen to do that. Well, I don't know, but it appears not so, or indeed whether the reasoning that they brought forward now that there seems to be more photographic evidence is one they want to look at again. I would encourage them to do that because I think that gives confidence to the police. We police by consent in the UK. It's an extraordinary thing. We are incredibly lucky, and we need to make sure that we maintain the trust and respect of our police because they do the right thing. So I hope that they will look at all that's been brought to them and reach a decision accordingly. Can it be in any way compared to what's happened in Downing Street, though? I mean, more crime committed in Downing Street, given how many fixed penalty notices have been issued, than any other street in England. So, as I say, I would want all police constabularies to look at anything that's brought to them if they are concerned and they look, back against legislation that was brought in temporarily, and for conclusions reached, as indeed the Metropolitan Police have in London. And they have reached their conclusions. So do you think, given that, Durham Police also, of course, were supposed to be investigating what happened with Dominic Cummings back in April of 2020, should they look again at that? Well, so again, if more evidence was brought to them than they should, if they felt they have everything and they, reached a judgment accordingly, then...
because they did acknowledge that they took his witness statement as what he said in the Downing Street garden, and he has subsequently said that he was a little bit economical with the actualité when that came about. He was under pressure, and he's changed his story somewhat since. So, there is more evidence now.
So, as I say, I think as we police by consent in the UK, that we want our police forces to do what they need to do with the evidence that's brought to them. So, I hope Durham Constabulary will do that.
As things stand today, do you think that this is a resigning matter for Sir Keir Starmer, given that he was at an event that broke the rules?
As I say, I'd like Durham Constabulary to look at everything and to, if they felt a fixed penalty notice was the appropriate, statement of conclusion of it, in the same way that the Metropolitan Police have here for a number of people who were in Downing Street at events that have been deemed unsuitable. Then what I would want to see is that same fixed penalty notice. I don't think those are resigning matters for anybody.
I hear you, but Labour came out swinging, of course, as we know. This was Angela Rayner. If the Chancellor gets a fine, does he have to go as well?
Well, I would say so, yeah. Anyone that's in the government that decides to break their own rules...
It'll be a pretty empty front bench at this rate.
Well, then there's plenty of other MPs out there.
What do you think? She's saying that the Prime Minister and also Rishi Sunak had to resign, and they should resign. She can't believe that they're still in post. And as far as Rishi Sunak is concerned, he says all he did was he was going to a meeting anyway, and he just got caught up in it. He's taken his medicine and got his fine. What I'm saying to you is that as far as, we don't know with Miss Rayner, we need to investigate that further, but as far as Sir Keir Starmer is concerned, he was at an event indoors that was breaking lockdown rules at the time.
So, as I say, I think the police should, now with all the new evidence come forward, look at it again, and if they consider a fixed penalty notice should be issued, then clearly that would be the tool available to them to do so. I don't think that I don't think that's a resigning matter, personally.
What, if you get a fixed penalty notice?
No.
OK, so Sir Keir Starmer's as safe as houses then? What's the fuss about then?
Well, the whole point is about the demonstration of leadership. I think Rishi Sunak's point is a very important one, which is, if the Metropolitan Police have determined that crossover through a door was a point of failure, if that's the right description, then they have issued their notice accordingly. And I understand that he has, paid it, and the matter is closed as far as he is concerned. But in the same way, that would be a reason for the police to follow through and to reach a conclusion, and then for the everyone to be able to move forwards. I think, the Prime Minister has been clear so many times that
it's a bit of mudslinging as far as Sir Keir Starmer is concerned, and you're not calling for him to resign, even if he does get a fixed penalty notice. So why are we bothering?
Well, no, I think what we all want to see, as I say, we police by consent in this country. So if there is evidence brought to the police which makes them need to investigate whether or not those COVID rules were broken, they should do so. And
but he still shouldn't resign even if he did.
Well, I think the situation is to clear the situation up and then move forwards. What Keir chooses to do, of course, as a result of any outcome such as that, would be for him to determine.
Great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining
Pleasure.
us. Always appreciated. Thank you.